KCHW 102.7, Scott, Daisy, and Mike in the studio this morning. And, of course, Mr. Mike Bentz here representing the Chamber and a couple other nonprofits around the area. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so before we go into your interview, I want to talk about, we had a great interview yesterday. We had kids come in from the Stage Time Theater and talk about their play. I got to interview each one of the kids, and then they sang us an amazing song. And I want to play that song, but first, I want to give them a plug because their show is this weekend, and they are doing Singing in the Rain Junior. And the kids are amazing. Janet McLaughlin did such a great job with the kids. The new drama teacher's doing a great job with the kids. We got one of our seniors, Robbie Thompson, who is the director for this play. And we've got some great kids like Jimmy Curry, Sarah Torgerson, Talea George, if I send your name right, Talea, I hope so, and Judah Katona. And they were all in the studio yesterday and sang for us. Showtimes, they open Friday night at 7. Saturday on the 30th, they've got a 10, 2, and 7. Sunday, they have a 2 and 7. Tickets are $7 in advance, $9 at the door, and available at the Chewelah Independent, Acres, Quartzsite Brewery, and, of course, the Jenkins High School. So big show starting this weekend for the kids, Singing in the Rain Junior. And here are here is Jimmy Curry, Sarah Torgerson, and Judah Katona singing the, I guess it'd be their lead song from Singing in the Rain Junior.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you. When the band began to play, the stars were shining bright. But now the milkman's on his way. It's too late to say goodnight. So good morning. Good morning. Sunbeams will soon shine through. Good morning. Good morning to you.
You and you and you. Good morning. Good morning. We kept the whole night through. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Nothing could be greater than to be in Louisiana.
In the morning, it's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Might be just as zippy if we wasn't Mississippi.
When we left the movie show, the future wasn't bright. But came the dawn, the show goes on, and I don't want to say goodnight.
Well, say good morning.
Good morning.
Rainbows are shining through.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bonjour.
Monsieur.
Buenos dias.
Muchas frias.
Buongiorno.
Aggiorno.
Good morning.
Good morning. We talked the whole night through. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It was really good.
Very-
Wow.
You know,
Makes you want to
Wow.
sing
that
along.
song will be in my head for the rest of the day.
I've been singing it for the past 24 hours. What are you talking about? Since they were in here.
Yeah, I'm going to answer the phone. Good morning.
Good
morning.
And as it was playing, I was thinking that should be our new opening song for the morning show.
Exactly.
It's so feel good.
It's happy. Yeah,
And they
happy
did
song.
such an excellent job on it. So there's just a little tease of what you're going to get in the show. And if you would like to see how all that happened in the studio, the video is on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, KCHW Tube. And it was so cool to have, and a different way for them to sing, because they're used to dancing around while they're doing that. But they all were sitting each in a chair like you guys around the table and singing that song. And you can watch it all. It's at I think it's about a 12-minute interview, and the song is right at the end of it. But that was very cool.
Oh, that was very, very good.
And the other thing I'd like to point out is the audio quality on that. Sounds like it was recorded in a real studio.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And it was.
Miami.
So if you'd like to have a cool recording like that too, you know who to call.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on here. I got my cheat sheet, Mr. Mike Bentz. Mike, you were talking about something about up the golf course, and I'd like to start with that, because you had some points you wanted to throw out, and it's real curious how you guys get the greens ready. So,
That's right.
Mike, what's your title up there now? Because I know you kind of went through some changes.
Well, I'm the president of the board.
Okay.
And effectively, kind of the buck stops there type of thing.
Yeah.
So, I've just never been a big fan of titles. And
All right.
so,
Just call him the head honcho.
yeah, they had honcho, the boss. I mean, I don't know, but the issue is, I basically just work on getting things done.
All right.
You know, and the
Because you
people
were
that
holding
are-
general manager position there for a while, weren't you?
Right.
That's
yeah,
why I asked.
And effectively that, and so we're moving away from that. And as you know, Jason Pitt is the golf operations manager, so he effectively over the next year will be taking over a lot of what I've been doing.
All right.
And then we separated the restaurant, the Rusty Putter out, and we Todd Cole, who's the food and beverage manager, that'll be a separately ran entity with inside the golf course, basically, because those are two entirely different business models, and to have one person in charge of both at this point, I think, is just a challenge that most people don't want.
Kind of disservice to both of the
It really
to both
is.
of the sections. Yeah.
So what you do, I think, just good management technique is to take a look at the skills of the people that you have and figure out where they fit the best. And
Excellent.
Jason obviously is a great person on the golf side. I mean, he's lived and breathed golf since he was in high school. And he's been there, I think, 16, 17 years, so he knows it extremely well. And he knows the people on the grounds crew very, very well. And there's got to be a good liaison there, because they communicate literally every day on what conditions are, or whether maybe we have a hazard that we have to, set off, or if they're going to be doing seeding or fertilizing or whatever. That has to be, communicated back so people know what's going on when they get out there. And then, on the marketing side, that type of thing also. Because that was the one thing we've been working pretty hard on over the last couple of years, is get the name out, reach out to other markets, that type of thing.
All right.
And then the one thing we do, which, I'm not really a big golfer, and I wasn't aware of it, and is we call it the blowing of the greens. That's kind of the official start of moving into getting the course open. And what they do is they clean the greens off first with snow blowers. And
Is that funny to watch?
it really is. That's why I asked you. Brandon Hansen actually took a picture of it and posted it on Facebook. And he called it the archaeological, what did he say? It was the archaeological process has started looking for the putting greens under the snow or something. It was really, Brandon. He's just a great wordsmith. And so, and then it becomes a community event, because, we reach out to the members and say, hey, we got 27 of these things we got to clean off, plus, the putting greens and chipping greens and stuff like that. And when you got 2 feet of snow on the ground, basically, when they got started, that's a pretty big job.
Now, do people up there that are involved in the golf course and volunteers show up with snowblowers too?
They do.
We should film this for
snowblower party
YouTube.
at
It
the
sounds cool.
It's really pretty cool. And we have to have Ron May, he's the grounds foreman, he looks them over, because you don't want people out there with machines that'll tear up the greens, which
Sure.
is by
Right.
far
Have the
most
claws
part
set
of the
wrong
fairway.
or something, right?
Yeah, and so he'll go through it. And so I was talking to Ron. He says, we had a lot of people step up this year. He says, I had to tell a couple people that, we can't use your machine. Either it was too small, it wouldn't throw the snow far enough, or it was not track driven or wheel driven big enough that it would spin out on the greens, and of course that
Cause damage,
grass, could cause damage. Or he says the other side of that, he says, Mike, we had a member show up with a 46-inch snow blower that would throw snow like 400 feet. He goes, in this case, more power is not what you want.
Oh, look, a hunk of the green went with it,
That's
right?
right, exactly. But yeah, I think they're pretty close to being done. And the reason we do that is there's a layer of ice underneath it, and so you want to get the snow off, because that insulates the ice, so you can get the ice melted. Otherwise, there's a mold that starts growing on the greens, because the grass is very, very tight there, so the drainage isn't as good, say, as it is on the fairways. And but I've learned way more about golf courses than I ever wanted to for my entire life. But it's pretty cool. I mean, maybe I'll send you a picture or two that I've taken, where you've got snow blowers blowing, you got somebody out on a golf course with these snow blowers, and you see the snow being thrown, and these tunnels where they're basically in the snow where they got there. But that's kind of the official start of getting ready. And then right now, of course, it's all weather related, but we're shooting for hopefully the weekend of Easter to be our opening day.
Excellent.
And a lot of it will depend on, the rain, which is a positive for us right now, because that'll help melt off a lot of the snow. And as long as it doesn't downpour where it pools on top of the golf course, then that's great. I mean, it's very sandy. So
And the percentages of rains for each day was, after today was like 30, 40.
Yeah,
I think I saw 150 in there, so it shouldn't be too heavy, hopefully.
Right.
Well, and you'd think with all the sunshine we got that it would be melted.
Yeah, well, except we have lots of trees.
Oh, okay.
And what surprised me
And you're up there a little.
is there's a fair amount of drifts up there, and I didn't think we got that much wind this winter, but maybe when I was in Mexico we did. I don't know, but
There were so during February.
Yeah.
There were a few of the snowstorms that came with a little
and
wind.
and like your experience in North Dakota, once you get those drifts, it's like concrete.
Uh-huh.
And so it takes a while to get rid of that, and so we're just cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to open that weekend.
Excellent.
So.
All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get into that interview. I was there for last Saturday, a big home and garden show at Guess Elementary.
Yeah, I was there. I came through, and just off the top, what's impressive to me is in a community the size of Chewelah, your representation of businesses there was broad-based, and people were passionate about what they do, which is that entrepreneurial spirit that's here. So you could walk through there and talk to Shelley at Tri-County Economic Development, or Jim Caruso at Emergency Managed Services, or Scott, KCHW, or Ryan was there, financial services and medical services and contracting services. The golf course was there. I mean, it's a real small venue, and other than hanging more from the ceiling, I don't see how you get more people in there.
No.
And one of our new members was the music place outside.
Yeah. House of Music set
House
up.
of Music, yeah. And what an addition. I mean, I just visited with him for just a few minutes, but I mean, I didn't even realize the place existed. But that's why, that's why the home show's there.
I like that. Hart Tills brings toys.
Well, and they had that blue UTV out there up front.
We were looking
And
at it.
I looked at it, went back and looked at it, went back and looked at it, and I told Loretta when I got home, I said, I think Paul might get in our pockets again. I don't know.
I tell you, if you buy that, I've got the perfect place to go ride.
Yeah, I know. You said that before. Yeah, you would store it for me.
I would store it for you,
You would
Mike.
make sure the shocks work. And,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Keep it full of gas.
Keep it full of gas. So, I know.
All right,
You already told me all that. So.
All right, and what's funny, and I'm going to throw this out for people, is because we make the announcements. We add the announcement, that it's time for vendors to sign up. We do it on the air, and there's always a bunch that wait, and then they can't get in.
They can't get in.
And there could have been maybe some things that if you would have known in advance time, where maybe we could have done some lobby stuff or a classroom maybe, but you can't wait and then call Sandy the day before the event and say, we'd like
once
to be
we
there.
actually move into the school, the logistics change dramatically. Where you're pretty segregated there in the gym.
Yeah.
So there's you've got safety issues and all kinds of things you have to do.
Yeah, but if you're a contractor, and I'm just going to throw this out there, if you're a contractor of any type, that is the place to be. That's where people are looking for. So when you hear the announcement that the Chamber is doing the Home and Garden Show, don't wait because you lost a lot of leads Saturday.
Well, and just from an exposure standpoint, I mean, the golf course is there, and we don't do a tremendous amount of business there. But it's exposure to the community. The Rusty Putter was there, and so and Todd, of course, was our new food and beverage manager. So it was a great venue for him to get to know people and things like that. And so I think it's a short-sighted as a business just to say I'm going to go to there to sell something. You've got to be there to sell yourself. I mean, don't worry about the products. Make the awareness. That's really what home shows.
It is
Great for networking.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
It's the same thing, with people that might do. We don't call them commercials; they're sponsorship thank yous. But it's for somebody to get a sponsorship, and that's one of the things when I'm talking to people. It doesn't mean people are going to come through your door, but you're building awareness now. And what I like to use as an example is because I know this happened once from hearsay, from a story, from a listener, but. And they were talking, I think it was Dawson's. So there's something like if you're going to do sand and gravel or some concrete, not something you're going to need probably even once a year. Right. Maybe once every 10 years in your life where you're building something and you need cement, or maybe your driveway needs to be re-graveled or something like that. But what you're doing is you're planting that seed. and then somewhere in the distance, you don't know when, someone needs something, and they go, "Oh yeah, Dawson's is always on the radio," yeah, and that was this story or what that I got secondhand or whatever that came through from the person who went to the sponsor, was that they were really tickled when they told them that they'd heard it on the radio and stuff. And it does. You plant that seed and let it grow. Daisy's a seed planter in lots of ways.
I think we're coming to that there is a value in community building. We're coming to see that it doesn't have a monetary value, but there is a value because we like each other.
Yeah.
You know, we want to care for each other, and community is about taking care of each other.
Yeah, you know, Joan Thompson made a comment at a meeting we were at here a week or two ago, and she said, when you get all these businesses together, some of them actually compete with each other, of course. But she said, you know, a rising tide raises all boats. And that's effectively what you're talking about, Daisy, is if you get a community that is cohesive and supportive of each other, then that benefits everybody.
Yes.
You know, it absolutely does.
Right.
So, yeah, I think, you know, it was a great show. I got some things here from Sandy, you know, to fill in. Basically, you know, it was by far the best show we've had.
For attendance?
For attendance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
she said that, you know, those little gift bag things they hand out when you get there,
Yes.
they actually ran out of those at 1:15. And we had 250 of them set up to go out. So we know at least 250 bags went out. And I would bet the vast majority of the people who came there didn't come by themselves. You know, there was at least 2, maybe 3 people. So you just start doing the math together. And my guess is there were somewhere between 500 and 750 people there through that period.
Because not everybody stops for the bag too.
Yeah,
because there's a big.
I didn't pick
No,
up the
no,
bag.
and there's a, you know, it kind of causes a little bottleneck there at the table when they're getting them and stuff. So
Right.
some people will just avoid that. So that's, you know, I'm sure you could even, you're being conservative about those numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think it's and probably a little more at an event like that, but usually only 3% of your audience will stop to grab something free.
Right.
So
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, but in events like that, it's a little higher. But typically, they even say that, like for broadcasting, if you're trying to give away a pair of tickets or stuff, only 3% of whoever's listening would bother to pick
Really?
up
I'd
the
never
phone,
heard that statistic
and it has to be
before.
something compelling to them.
Right. Well, and then the FFA, you know, they had to go back twice and get more plants.
Nice.
They ran out.
You can't beat that.
And you know, they did a great job selling them. Sandy called SETI's to get some feedback, and SETI's just said it. They were, she put it in caps, very happy.
All right.
So, you know, that to me tells you that there's a well-known local business that obviously was participating, that felt it was well worth their time.
I like the chance to give out 250 membership applications.
Right. So did you?
Or win
did you-
$2,500.
And if you took your bag home from the Home and Garden Show and you haven't opened up that bag,
Right.
inside of it is lots of cool stuff and magnets and pens and information about different
A membership.
businesses and a membership form from
And you did-
KCHW.
And I still want to point out that membership's about $100 a year.
For a business, or if you want to do a gold level, if you're a private or
Right.
a family or a couple like you and Loretta,
Right.
I think you guys did that. So it's $102.70 a year at that for 102.7. But if you're on a budget, senior military students, they can support for as low as $20 a month, and it goes 20, 25, 50, and then
Okay.
the 102.70. And if you've got too much money and you need a tax break, you can give us any amount of money
Right.
you want,
Yeah.
and we'll give you a tax receipt.
Well, and then, you know, like I've always said, break it down to the ridiculous. I mean, at $100 a year, I mean, that
I
works out at like $2 a week. I mean, so,
Right.
you know, and you, come on, you can
Save a
afford,
latte
you
a
can
day.
afford $2 a week, if nothing else, to listen to Scott.
Oh,
I mean, he's a $2 a week guy.
yeah, because I will make your shake your head and go, whatever.
Exactly. But the Lions cooked 208 burgers.
Good.
So, you know, I'm sure Brian Ross will, you know, bring that up here in a couple of weeks at the chamber meeting.
All right.
And we had more than 250 people sign up for the door prizes. And I have no idea who won the door prizes, but I'm sure that Sandy will, take care of that.
And a lot of the vendors themselves were all doing drawings
Yes.
as well.
Right,
So.
exactly.
So
yeah.
everybody had free. They were really confused. I didn't do as well as I thought I would selling the Mooch Money Madness tickets.
Okay.
Because everybody was going around the tables and they're getting to fill out tickets for free, and then I wanted $5 for my ticket. So I was like, they look so disappointed. What do you mean you're bold? I don't get to enter yours for free? No, I want mine.
Yeah, no. That's because I'm special and I'm worth it.
There you go. You got to be different.
I didn't try that.
You didn't try that one?
I'll stay
okay.
away from that one.
All right. So, and I do have the coloring contest winners.
Okay, go ahead. Roll them out.
Once we threw Scott's, out,
My Star Wars drawing.
the age from 0 to 5 was Horick. David Horick.
Okay.
So 6 to 9 was Nora Arnold, and then 10 to 12 was Michaela Duke.
All right.
So those are the winners of the contest, and we want to thank Richmond Logging and Washington Federal because they're the businesses that stepped up for the prizes for the coloring contest.
Nice.
And it's on the chamber website, so if you want to go in there and take a look at it, you'll see the pictures that won, and the names are listed and all that. So
That's
that dynamic, new, fantastic, award-winning, we'll get it, website.
All right. You're submitting it for an award, are you?
Yeah,
All right.
I was thinking about that. I mean, I don't know. There's got to be someplace somewhere that gives awards for websites.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Laura Ritchie over here at Mind Meld and the crew of the chamber, they helped put that together.
Nice.
Primarily Sandy. Did a great job.
All right.
Great
Yeah,
job.
it is a good-looking new website.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's
So,
something to say about a small town with a nice-looking chamber website.
That's right. I mean, it's dynamic. It's modern.
And it could be the first stop for a lot of people too when they're
Well,
checking out.
Yeah,
Chewelah,
and we
so.
promote it. I mean, and it's surprising. I'm rebuilding, having the golf course website rebuilt as we speak. And you look at the prototype versus the one that's actually been there since 2008. It's like light years of difference. I mean, it's just unreal. The technology changes, the interactive capabilities. I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah, I had to step up our game on ours because I actually got, some people coming in going, you know what, and what is the good sign? And it really started when we started broadcasting on YouTube. I got a lot more hits on the website, a lot more people in, and I got a few comments like, you know what, I really have to dig to find this link, and I really have to, and it really gave me some ideas, so I put big bold, like when you get on the homepage, there's a big bold button that says click here to watch or listen, you know, and now when you land on the homepage, the radio station automatically starts playing. You don't get a choice. So if that's what you're there for, yeah, you got to stay on top of them.
Oh,
It's ever-changing world.
It is. I mean, technology is, I used to tell people in the business I was in, automate or terminate.
Right.
So, but other than that, I think the home show definitely going to be on the cards again next year. I don't know about expanding it. We'd have to figure out a location to be able to do that. But plus, at Guess Elementary, you've got good parking. I mean, even the parking lot was full when I got there, so I had to park on one of the side streets. But
Yep.
And Mike, what about planning for the last-minute people? I mean, is there something you guys could put in there? I
there's
kind of feel bad for them.
well, I've always believed, procrastination on your part doesn't create an emergency on my part.
Yep.
But they have to be chamber members, and so there are a couple of people that joined at the last minute so they could be at the home show, because the home show is very, very I won't say inexpensive, but it's cost effective. How's that sound?
Yes.
It's a great opportunity. And then, like the music store, I mean, they brought their own tent. And guess the people at Guess Elementary were nice enough to say, yeah, go ahead and set it up outside. That's not an issue at all. So that's one thing you could do. You're a little bit dependent on weather if you do that, and the weather. The weather's. But we've had some rough home and garden shows where I was surprised how busy it was because it was like torrential downpour and cold
outside.
Wind. And but that there again, we promote it pretty early, and if people say, well, I want to think about it, you might be thinking into next year.
Or if they're not listening to
Yeah,
the
if they're
radio
not
enough,
listening
then
radio,
that's
yeah,
fine.
exactly. So good promotion on it. But that's a good point, Daisy. And that's something we'll bring up at the board maybe, is to say, can we look for a different location? Can we, something that's got a little bit more room? And it's not as easy as just saying, okay, I want to do it right here. I mean, you got all kinds of background stuff you got to do.
Sure.
You know, we have a great building in town for that kind of stuff that's just sat empty for 20 years, and it's really sad. And that's the old coat factory, the sewing factory there across.
Right.
I mean, that huge building. Could you imagine the little things you could do in there? I've never
Right.
seen in the inside of it if it's wide open or not. But
Yeah, I have
but
no
it's
idea.
just too bad that I think it's probably some kind of tax write-off because it sat empty for so long. but I mean,
Exactly.
there's this huge building that could have been a theater. It could be like a giant bouncy house playland. It could
Right.
it could be a thing for events. It could be anything. And look at
Right.
the space and size
Right.
of that building, and it just sits there and rots. It's too
You
bad.
could put
Yeah.
a little roller coaster in there. What's a little
Sure, yeah,
a little
mini, yeah.
park
There's
with
so much
entertainment
you could
park.
do.
Right.
And could you imagine? A lot of towns have done that now with like old malls and stuff like that,
Right.
where they turn them into a little theme park with all sorts of bouncy houses and stuff
Right.
like that. And I think
Bumper
if
cars.
somebody picked up that building and did that, if you could get them to sell it, and I think there's a
Right.
Camille Hagelgood sign out there. I think everybody in the county'd come to Chewelah for that.
Right.
Yeah,
It-
so-
there again, it'd be another draw. And
And I
that's
want a
part of
kickback if
that.
somebody does it because I just threw the idea out there on the radio.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty. So, but the home show was a success.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably
That's a
the
big wrap.
bottom line. And we'll have a chance to talk to some of the vendors. I know I talked to Jason. He says, it was great, as far as he's concerned for the golf course. And then he pointed out that, Todd was phenomenal for him because he's not from the area and he's moving his family to the area in June or July. And so it's great exposure for him to get a better feel of what the community's about.
Sure.
And I mean, that type of thing. And we advertise it pretty heavily. I mean, it's in the paper, it's on the radio, it's on the website, it's on Facebook, and so it gets pretty good exposure. And on the Facebook side, we boost it out to try to reach out into a larger community base, so people will actually come in, which will let me segue into a survey that I saw, or some of the results I saw from the Carpe group.
Yeah.
It's not official yet because I got to dig into the data a little bit more, but there was two numbers that really jumped out at me that I shared at the chamber meeting a week ago. There's a large percentage, it's like 57% of the people that took that survey would drive 100 miles to recreate.
Wow.
And
Nice.
so, this mental block of, well, they're too far away, is really not
Get
the
over
truth.
it, right.
Yeah. And then a large percentage, and I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say 53% said they're willing to spend $100 a day or more to go to recreate.
Sure.
And if you think about that from a business perspective, and you're a beacon community, and I love that term. I said a couple of weeks ago that Tim from the Trails and Guide Gallery had coined that in a meeting. If people are willing to do that, I mean, it's nothing to come up from Spokane.
Right.
You just got to give them a reason.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So, anyway,
And
that's
raise the awareness.
raise the awareness. Yeah.
All right. We really covered the home and garden show.
Well, it was worth covering.
It makes you want to have another one.
If we need a fall home and garden show.
Right.
So you brought in a bunch of different events that are coming up. Next one is citywide cleanup, always fun,
Right.
right around Earth Day.
Right.
April 27th this year, citywide cleanup.
Citywide cleanup. It's something the chamber supports, obviously, and we try to get everybody involved, not just businesses. I mean, it's to me kind of a nice tradition after the winter. You got all the crud on the streets, and you just start cleaning, kind of like spring cleaning for the city. And so we're asking the businesses to do a fair amount. I know the city has agreed now. I think they said they're going to run their sweepers for like a full month.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
they had so much, the sand they had to put down this year. So we're asking people to get stuff to the street, off of their sidewalks and stuff, clean up the alleys, and it's a concerted group. So you can get a hold of Sandy if you want to volunteer.
And they always meet at Napa.
They meet at
in the
Napa.
parking lot with rakes and shovels and all
Right,
that good
and
stuff.
generally at the end of the time, which is around noon or 1 o'clock, they finish up. They'll have hot dogs and stuff someplace. And,
Usually, yeah, they're off to the Legion.
Yeah, off to the Legion, yeah, exactly. So, and I
Because
was
beer and sweeping go together.
I like that.
And I was thinking about it, and I'm sure when my kids graduated from high school, they had to have so many hours of community service to graduate, or community service projects. I'm sure that's the same
Still
in
goes on,
Chewelah.
yeah.
And I don't know if this would be one of those things that the high school kids could plug into to get their community service hours.
Sure.
You know, I think it is actually any
Seems like
community.
it would be.
It
Right.
should be.
Anytime
anyway.
they're working for a nonprofit.
Yeah.
So,
And whistle while they work.
Yeah,
That's
because I know that both of my kids really struggled to find the community service hours. You know, and this is in a larger community, and so you know, I think volunteer,
Got
get it
some
done.
here.
You know, yeah, the citywide cleanup, and then from there we go to May 4th, which is another infamous thing. Is it still happening on May 4th?
yes,
Ooh,
it is.
May the
It-
4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you, yes.
Okay.
It's Chewelah's Got Talent 5 Star Wars style. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in conjunction with that, we have the citywide garage sale.
And that happens every time, it seems. And it's funny because I push the talent show. Well, we always do the talent show that first Saturday, and the citywide yard sale is always the same day, as well as usually a couple
Ooh.
other events that pop up too.
Pop up
So-
the same day,
Shopping.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's something unique to in the communities I've lived anyway. That's something very unique to Chewelah. I mean,
having a yard sale day for everybody.
everybody, yeah,
That
and
is
the
cool.
Independent is the primarily sponsor behind that, of course, you know, because Jared and the group over there do a phenomenal job. But
And the amount of people that come to town for that is
Oh,
crazy.
I
Keep
mean,
your pets inside because there's cars and
All right.
people
All over.
I've got my
everywhere.
date marked for my
All right.
storage
All
right
right.
now.
I mean,
Going yard sale.
to me, it was like, you know, when I live on the golf course, and the first time they had this, I'm going, what's going on? Is this some kind of emergency evacuation, or what's the deal here? You know, you know, I had no concept. You know, cars are lining the streets. And,
We should
you know,
go. There must be a tornado
there
coming.
must be, yeah, exactly.
Evacuate the
It
trailer
was
park.
a test evacuation, actually.
Exactly. So, but you know, it's really a tradition, and so that's coming up on May 10th, the opening of the farmers market.
All right.
And I'm sure we'll have Joan in here in April to
Oh, yeah.
promote that again.
Yep.
But and in between those two is Small Business Week. You know, it's sponsored by American Express, and so you know, they do two things a year: Small Business Day, which is generally the early part of December, and then Small Business Week, which is in May. So the chamber. In next week when we get together, the EDC committee of the chamber will be putting together some promotional stuff to support small businesses, and
Okay.
you know, so kind of I called it the perfect big bookend week. I mean, so we can promote on one end and promote and drive it to the other end, and then everything in between.
All right.
What a nice jump start for spring. For
It is
businesses in the
exactly, you know,
spring.
because
Excellent.
as summer kicks in, it's harder and harder to get people's attention, you know, because their time becomes more and more and more committed to other things as the weather gets nicer. So you really want to jumpstart your spring and then finalize out in your fall, and then just tickle them through the summer.
I like that.
So,
Stay away from me, Mike.
okay, all right, okay.
I like the tickle.
And then this year, get it on your calendar on September 21st, which is a little bit earlier than normal.
Okay.
We're having the chamber annual auction, and that's the major fundraiser for the chamber by far. And without the auction, the chamber couldn't do what it does, because once expenses are paid, all that money goes back into the community in one form or another. And it also builds reserves, and it also gives you Sandy, that type of thing. So for a small community of 2,601 people, remember I brought that up the other day, to have a brick and mortar place for your chamber, and an individual in there that can answer questions, send out relocation packets, steer people to the right way, that's phenomenal. That wouldn't happen in most communities considerably larger.
Yes.
So the chamber is a big thing there, and I, one of my funny stories on the last one is they have the silent auction stuff, and Loretta says, well, I want to bid on that birdhouse and the massage. Okay, and I said, we need another birdhouse like we need a hole in the head. So
She
anyway,
has a birdhouse problem, does she?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we
It's
want
not a
it,
bad problem to have.
and I can't even remember how much we paid for it, but I can tell you I probably paid for it 10 times over in massages.
Ah.
So, and I can't remember the name of the individual that does that, but it was a good move to put that in the silent auction. Well, at least from your perspective. I mean, their perspective. So, but it's coming up, and then of course we have the city sidewalks. This will be, I think, the 4th year on that. and it just keeps better and better every year.
It's Chewelah's Black Friday.
It's,
Chewelah Shopping Day.
It is, yeah, exactly.
I'm really excited about your last one. I think this is going to be really cool. I hope it takes off and they can do it every Wednesday. And that is the Farmers Market Summer Nights. Tell us about that.
Oh, I think that's a phenomenal idea. I got to put, hats off to the Farmers Market, the people that put that together, Joan Thompson and the rest of the group. It, to me, that's that summer thing. How do you keep people engaged? Well, they're going to engage them the first Wednesday of every month, June through October. They're closing off 2nd Street, and it'll have different musicians that have, we're running up in there, different vendors. It's like a street fair with music.
Fun.
Nice.
And
like that.
what I envision,
Great
I moved up from Austin, and Austin has First Thursdays, which is kind of the same thing. It's like on steroids. It's a lot bigger. And we like going to that, but because you have, these different music venues there, as you're going down the street. I mean, they're street musicians, basically. And I used to call it the vendors that come out of the hills with the unique stuff. Summertime's when they do that. And that, if you like getting unique items, this will be a great venue for that. And I agree with you, Scott. I hope it takes off, but I'm going to be a little more positive. It is going to take off.
They're going to like it.
I
It's
think
gonna
people
take
are
it
going to want it every week.
Yeah, and
I do already.
well,
I do.
you-
When I heard
we
about
need
it, I went,
something to do in the
that'd be so fun to
evenings.
do every Wednesday night. And I was going,
Right.
because some months, depending on the way the weeks land, we'll have first Wednesday and first Thursday back to back.
yeah.
Now there could be where the first Thursday is the first Thursday of the month, and the first Wednesday doesn't happen until the following week.
Right.
But I'm sure there's going to be several weekends or several times this summer where we have them back to back. So that'll be a fun couple
That'll
days.
be
in
a
Chewelah.
fun 2 days.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there again, that'll be something the Chamber can help promote to bring people into the community. And so, I mean, it would be, not to put you on the spot, but you could have a booth on, because it ties in. You got your musical side. You could look for people who want to do donations or underwriting of programs, that, so I'm getting an underwriting word in there.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, to me, I even thought it from a golf course perspective. It's not a good time for us because we're busy in the summertime. But if I could figure out, how to get somebody down there, maybe bring in a small version of snag golf, which they did in the schools here, I mean, things like that. I mean, to me, the opportunity is endless. But you still got to get what I call butts in the seat. You got to get people there.
Yeah.
So, and
Putts in the seat?
butts in the seat. Yeah. Yeah.
Butts in the seats.
I was
I say the same thing
but I
every time
was
I'm
saying-
throwing in a concert. I need more butts in the seats. These
Exactly.
tickets aren't selling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think that's a great addition.
It's gonna be fun.
And I talked to Joan about, why not every week? Well, you got to first two
Start
things. First,
somewhere.
we got to start somewhere, and the other one is
Coordinating it.
Coordinating
Yes.
it.
Especially with the
Yeah.
musicians. And I know, because
Yeah.
I've tried to, the past 2 times I've tried to throw a concert together
Right.
because I bring in 3 acts. They've kind of fallen apart on me. That's why we haven't had one recently. It's tough to get them all lined up
Right.
and all the people on the same day. I imagine a Wednesday's a little easier because I'm always trying to do mine on a Friday and
Yeah,
Saturday
you're
night.
competing with everybody else.
And that's when they're out
Yeah.
playing, making money, and I'm asking them to come play for free.
free. Yeah, you need the exposure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Wednesday will actually help. I mean, I look at just myself, and between me and Loretta, in most evenings in the summertime, I mean, we really are just relaxing. So
Yeah.
why not come down and relax for a
Right.
couple
Visit
hours
with your friends.
and visit with friends? Yeah, I mean that type of thing. And
Now, is there going to be a beer garden?
I can't answer
She's
that.
like adding all sorts of stuff. I love it.
you
A
know.
mini golf course with the beer garden and the wine bar.
Okay, Joan, if you're listening,
Well, if it's happening downtown, so I think we pretty well got it covered between the Sporties and Fired Up Pizza and
Yeah,
Chivino.
and well, and it sounds
then,
like-
the Oasis on the other
yeah,
side.
I was going to say,
and,
yeah. And it sounds like the retailers have agreed to stay open in the
Yes,
evenings,
I heard
you
that.
know, for that. And that's a big move for them, because
smart move.
It's a smart move, but it's a big move for, from a financial standpoint. You still got to pay your help whether you're busy or not. And so, I think that's a testament to the downtown people saying, hey, we need to do a little bit more in the evening, and we're willing to step up and do what we can too. So.
And what are the hours, Mike?
It is, I think it's from don't quote me, it's like 6 to 8. or
Oh,
5
that's
to
not
8.
bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
you want to start after people start getting off work, and of course they're going to close the street down, so I'm sure Napa, wants to make sure that you don't want them open in the,
So you said on Second, so they're going to be off of Flowery Trail on Second?
You know,
Because usually
it
stuff
said-
happens on
what
Third
I
in front of
saw-
the senior center.
well, what I saw was Main and Second,
Main and
which I think is over here, right?
Well, Main would be the street with the post office and Dr.
Right,
Kolstad
yeah,
on it, and
exactly.
then this one that runs in front of the radio station is North 3rd Street East, and
Yeah,
that's
okay, so
North
that'd be
2nd
Second,
Street
yeah.
East.
That's what, yeah.
Wow, because usually when they block off a street, they do it at the senior center.
Oh, okay.
Because there's, but they figured it out, because we've talked about doing a street concert here before, and the police will come over and
Right.
go, okay, all these buildings can be accessed from these side streets, so yeah, you're cool, we can block
Right,
this off.
right.
So,
Yeah, but that's what the flyer I had say, but I can
Okay.
confirm that
All right.
to make sure.
We got some time.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, thanks so much. I think we covered everything on your list, didn't we?
Well, I wanted to plug the Creative District, especially after listening to that Good Morning. Good morning. That's a really good lead-in to what the Creative District's all about. We're getting closer. I've established a timeline, or not I, we. We're in the process of meeting with the collaborative partners here, I think on April 9th, to finalize the information. And then the application process will start somewhere around the mid-May. And the whole point behind that is to bring in all of the creatives, is what they kind of tag themselves, into fold, so they're talking to each other and they support each other, and we can drive people to one entity instead of 10. And I'm in charge of putting that together right now, and it's just so impressive.
So
I
we've
mean-
just got Jeff Newman, who's became our community liaison.
Yeah, I know. He introduced himself, and I go, liaison, that's a pretty big word.
So is there still room for people to join this that would want to? Because the radio station should really be involved in this,
Well, and
because we
you're
could be
in-
a big voice for it. I know, it's something I haven't been able to get to or add to my plate.
Yeah,
but Jeff wants to do this kind of stuff. So if it's
Okay.
not too late, I'd like to start sending somebody too.
Yeah, what we'll do is the collaborative partners right now, I think we're at 12, and we're going to leave that for a period of time, because once you get too many, then
Sure.
nothing gets done. But the collaborative partners are only really building the infrastructure to get it done. And
Cool.
so what I'll do is I'll add you to the email tree because we have two meetings. One of them's the collaborative partners, and the other one is the kind of the general audience type thing of people that have expressed an interest in being in the Creative District. And there are some people that are interested, but they kind of want to wait to see how it comes together. And, the typical, I don't want to invest a lot of time until I know what I'm investing in. I mean, that type of thing. And I
Well, it
think
looks very positive, because the state
Yeah.
is really excited that Chewelah's
state's
doing
extremely,
this.
because of the size of the community and the fact there's only two of them that have been applied on the east side, Pullman being the other one. And so, the state's excited. And I made this comment once before, that somebody made a comment, Chewelah already has a creative district. They just don't know they have a creative district.
Yeah, what is a creative district?
Creative
Some
district
people may
is,
not understand.
it has to have defined boundaries geographically. And roughly what the defined boundaries are is it starts on the north end of City Park, kind of follows the creek, crosses over, and includes the brewery on 395, and then down Main Street a couple blocks. It's not defined and restrictive, though. So if you have like the Black Sheep, for instance, they're outside those defined boundaries, but they're part of they can still be part of the Creative District. You just need to have wayfaring signs and things like that to point people in the right direction. Has to be walkable. That was one of the criteria. And of course, Chewelah, the entire town's walkable as far as that goes. And you have to qualify as a creative. And then if you look at their list, that goes anywhere from a welder to the radio station. I mean,
Nice.
it's really, really broad-based.
Cool.
So it includes restaurants and the brewery and what you would think creatives, the gallery and the artists and the theater, and I mean all those things. And Chewelah's got, I don't even want to hazard a guess,
52
at least,
nonprofits.
yes, it's a lot.
It is.
Yeah, I mean,
start.
and so what this does is attempt to bring all those together, not as one organization, but as one focal point, and
Nice.
then be able to promote that focal point.
Awesome.
And the
Kinda
state of
like-
It's
Washington.
really going to open up the world for grants and all that kind
Exactly.
of stuff too.
Exactly. Because one of the things that on grants, as you're well aware of, more is better. And so the more you can focus in on that, and you can get the good data in place, and then, you can go for the public grants, but also private family, foundation type grants, those types of things.
So it's kind of like a historical
District, yeah.
district, basically
Yeah.
similar. Okay.
Yeah, very, very, very similar. And the ones I'm familiar with are predominantly in Montana, but Phillipsburg, Montana has created one kind of the same. It's a little tiny town in the middle of nowhere that lost population because logging went out and mining went out. Kind of sound familiar?
Yeah.
And then they took that old downtown core and started building it out where people wanted to come there, to recreate in one form or another. And it might be just one evening where they have a natural amphitheater where they have an act or a band. And it's about 80 miles from Missoula, Montana, and at least 50 or 60 miles from Butte, Montana. So it's in the middle of nowhere.
And people show up.
And they show up, yeah.
Nice.
So it's kind of the same thing. And then the other one is Missoula, which is a lot bigger community. But 30 years ago, they started with a deteriorating downtown core, sound familiar, and built that out. Because same fund, so one is so you can look at the vision on it and see, yeah, it does work. And the state funds through the Washington State Arts Commission the ability to develop these, and it's brand new,
Nice.
literally brand new.
There is so much exciting stuff happening around Chewelah.
It is.
There is. Between this and the Carpe,
that's-
Jeff, who I was just talking about, he keeps saying, another 10 years, this is going to be the next Sandpoint. It's going to be a place people
Right.
want to go because it's beautiful. They can recreate here, and it's a great opportunity for all the established businesses and nonprofits.
The only thing on the growth, it's got to be controlled. I mean, and I had a really good friend of mine. The first time he came to visit, it was an August afternoon, and where you come down the hill on the south end of town here, you kind of crest it and you look out, and it's a beautiful valley. And when Jim got to the house, he says, Mike, I crested that hill, and all I could think of was this is pastoral, and you don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
And that's that cultural identity and things like that. And I believe the people that are working really hard and really diligently in the right direction are keeping that as a kind of a guiding principle.
Well, and the housing prices are keeping people away, too.
And
Because
they're
if you try to buy a house,
Yeah.
Chewelah, in this area, Chewelah is the most expensive place to buy a house.
It is. Well, I didn't know, but
But and I'm not
yeah.
talking about stats. I'm just talking, and I was looking a couple years ago.
Right.
But it was just like that is why I bought up in Kettle Falls. I couldn't afford
in
Chewelah.
Chewelah,
Yeah.
yeah. But see, that's part of that growth. You get people in, and you bring in what I call starter housing, and where people can afford to come in.
Well, and I had
And-
stipulations. So I had to have something with water. I wanted,
Right.
I wanted to be
Oh,
next
yeah.
to a lake or a creek. I had to
That-
have a pond. I didn't care. Yeah, and
Pumps the price
and
up really fast.
And water featured properties around here, around this area of Stevens County, very expensive.
Very expensive.
So,
It's
yeah.
like lakefront property. It's any riverfront property. It's a limited supply, and there's a tremendous amount of people. who
It's
want
way
that.
cheaper up in Kettle. Just saying.
So-
Not to promote them or anything.
That's right,
But
yeah.
but maybe if we want to get overpopulated, we'll send them further north
them further
and keep
north.
Chewelah the way it is. We got lots of housing up here, Pat. Right around Addy. Go ahead.
Right on, Daddy.
You're still close. It's okay.
That's right. Exactly. So, but,
Don't
no,
mess up our cute, and that is important. Don't mess up the cute little town because you could get too big and lose your appeal.
That's right. Well, and that's the message that I think underlying the Carpe group and underlying the creative district and the chamber, you need to grow. It's because years ago there was a book that was written by Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, and in there the one line that came out of me, it says that all businesses are created equal. You either grow or you rot. They can't stabilize. And that is so true. I mean, it's true in life as far as I'm concerned. But Chewelah, you've got to grow because otherwise it'll rot.
Yep.
I mean, and so it's
It
working.
just depends on how you grow. If you want to grow wider, or if you want to grow toner, or
Yeah.
Well, I've
more
got-
toned, or then if you're sending people up to Addie, we could partner with them and build their little city, and
The-
then we'd
Make
just
it
be
spread.
partners.
Exactly.
We'd be a model for other small towns, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the right people are in the right seats, all in the same bus, go in the right direction for the right reasons. How's that for a number of rights?
That is good.
Everything is right. Everything is happy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Exactly.
I moved to Chewelah as a kid, 1978, and have been in the area most of my life, and this is the third time I've lived in Chewelah, I guess, because I came back for a few months just because I needed to lay low somewhere. The government was after me. No kidding. But this is
Is that what that helicopter landing pad is on
yeah,
top?
that black one that keeps
Building?
flying over there looking for me.
That's right. Yeah.
This is, since 1978, the most vibrant Chewelah has ever been.
Oh.
I haven't been here that long.
Chewelah is,
but
right now, I feel pretty confident saying that Chewelah is at its best right now, and it looks really good. So many businesses have made changes in storefronts, and I say it all the time with Systech and Hartel's moving out to the front of town with that whole area that I think it was Smith property at one time, and when he passed away, that got cleaned up as you came into town. The stuff Bellevue's done in downtown, refacing buildings. I mean, Chewelah's never looked so vibrant. I mean, really. So I don't know about the years before. We'd have to talk to some of the old timers and find out. But since 1978, it's never looked so good. So.
Well, and I can't address that. I can tell you since I got here in 2013, and maybe part of it is just being a little bit more involved. It's progressed dramatically. It really has. The attitude is really positive pretty much across the board. You know that when you get fewer and fewer complaints on what you do.
Yep.
And we get very few people that have concerns anymore, or valid concerns in my opinion. So yeah, it's going the right direction.
And we're really lucky, Mr. Mike Bentz, to have forward-thinking people like you involved in our chamber, involved in the golf course up there, because I mean, you're retired, you're doing all this out of the kindness of your heart too, and me and Daisy talk about that all the time. All that positive energy, when you do that, it's contagious.
Yeah, so. I've always, once I retired, the one thing I always tell people is there's no ulterior motive other than to make things better.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not doing it obviously for a paycheck, and I'm not doing it for fame. I'm not doing, it's just, it's giving back.
I've got time, I've got some skills, and I want to help.
Exactly.
And there you go.
Well, I still can.
Well, exactly. Well, big round of applause just for you, Mr. Mike Bentz. There you go. All right. Well, thanks for everything. As we're just gonna have to start doing Wednesdays. Every other Wednesday is just Mike Day, because we start talking, and look at that. We burned up almost an entire hour talking about Chewelah, and that's, I think, the last time you were in, we went an hour and 15 minutes.
Right.
It was the longest interview I have ever done on KCHW, and the comments I got about that interview and people that rewatched it on YouTube were amazing. So good job.
Good.
So that speaks a lot. It speaks a
we're
lot
moving
to
in the
you.
right direction then.
All right. Because all I do is poke you to go another direction and wrap it up. So it's all you, buddy.
Yeah, but you're good at poking.
All right. Easy.
I know. As soon as I said that, I'm thinking,
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Hey, we enjoyed it so much, and as we go out, I'm going to go the same way we came in. We're going to do it one more time. The kids from Singin' in the Rain Junior. Opening night is Friday, 7 p.m. at the Chewelah Center for the Arts.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm out of town now.
Yeah. Get out and support these kids. And here's another tease, because it's been an hour since we played it. It's KCHW 102.7. Me and Daisy will be back right around 9. We'll try to give you a little info from the community calendar. But here are the kids from Stage Time Singing in the Rain. Opens Friday night.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you. When the band began to play, the stars were shining bright. But now the milkman's on his way. It's too late to say goodnight. So good morning. Good morning. Sunbeams will soon shine through. Good morning. Good morning to you.
You and you and you. Good morning. Good morning. We kept the whole night through. Good morning. good morning to you.
Nothing could be greater than to be in Louisiana.
In the morning, it's great to stay up late. Good morning to you.
Might be just as zippy if we was in Mississippi.
When we left the movie show, the future wasn't bright. But came the dawn, the show goes on, and I don't want to say goodnight.
We'll say good morning.
Good morning.
Rainbows are shining through.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bonjour.
Monsieur.
Buenos dias.
Muchas frias.
Buongiorno.
Aggiorno.
Good morning.
Good morning. We talked the whole night through. Good morning. Good morning to you.